We're here again with Corporal Jeremy Burkett from the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Again, Corporal Burkett, really appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
As it's about to be the unofficial start of summer with
That's
Memorial
correct.
Day. I'd like to talk with you about ways that we can all be safer on this holiday weekend and then throughout the summer as people look to get out of their homes and branch out in this beautiful state.
Yes, sir. And we want everyone to enjoy, as you said, the unofficial start of the summer with this Memorial Day weekend. And we truly want everybody to enjoy it and have a good time. As we know, with COVID-19 coming to a roll, we do anticipate there's going to be a heavier than normal traffic on the highways and even the Alabama waterways. And we want people to enjoy themselves, but we want them to do it safely. So we really look at it in three parts when it comes to the extended holiday period: the beginning, middle, and end. So preparing yourself for the trip. You know, if you're getting ready to take a long trip, say for example, if you're getting ready to come down here to Mobile and enjoy an Alabama beach or a river or a lake, then we want you to the little things. Make sure you got a spare tire. But not only make sure that you have a spare tire, is the tire inflated? Do you have the things ready, available for you to change that tire? Do you have the lug wrench? Do you have your jack? Is it accessible? Those are the things that we want you to do in conjunction with some type of map recon, so you know where you're going. Say for example, you know, if you're utilizing some type of GPS or something like that, a GPS through a cellular communication device, and it fails, then you know how to get to where you're going and plan your rest stops, and then plan to stop. You know, drowsy driving can be just as dangerous as intoxication or drunk driving. Right. So take breaks, get out and stretch your legs. We just encourage people to do that, especially as they're going down and they have longer than normal travel periods as they're going to the different destinations this Memorial Day holiday. But then also once you get to wherever you're going, especially if you're going to be on the water, you know the traffic. We're focusing with the Highway Patrol Division, that division of the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, but also the Marine Patrol Division. Mm-hmm. The Marine Patrol Division, and we're asking everybody to be safe. Again, once you get to that river, that lake, or the beach, and you're out there on that water, especially if you're on a boat, it's just extremely important that everybody understands that they've got to have a personal flotation device. If you're under 8 years old, you've got to have it on all the time. Right. So if you're a child under the age of 8 years old, you have to have that personal flotation device on at all times. Now, if you're older than that, you still have to, everybody that's on the boat, everybody that's in that vessel has to have one for each individual that's on there, and it needs to be readily accessible.
Sure, and not just any flotation device. It
Correct.
has to be a Coast Guard
approved. You're exactly right.
And then the right size for the person.
Correct.
And you know, sometimes people think, oh well, my child, you know, he or she's a really good swimmer. You know, they don't need to wear a life jacket. But if doesn't matter how good a swimmer they are, 8 or under, in a life jacket.
Correct. And especially if you are being towed or pulled behind that vessel, regardless of your age, you need to have that personal flotation device on. If you're wakeboarding, skiing, or tubing, or any form of being pulled or towed behind that vessel, you need, no matter your age, you need to make sure you have that personal flotation device on.
And that's not, I mean, obviously it's the law and people have to obey the law, but also it just makes sense. I mean, because if you're skiing, you don't want to be skiing without a life jacket on. If you fall and hit your head or something, that's the whole point. It's there to save your life.
Correct.
In addition, I think that people don't appreciate that there are additional items that they have to have in the vessel if they're operating the vessel, and I think it's a good idea. I'm not going to ask you to recite all of them, but do y'all have that information on your website?
Yes, sir. That information is on the website, and we've actually done right at various locations, and we're putting that out. We have the Marine Patrol Division doing courtesy inspections, so they're throughout the state of Alabama, different locations. Where they can come out. Boaters can come to the various landings, and the Marine Patrol Division will inspect a boat. So they'll go through it to just kind of caveat of what you said relative to fire extinguishers, audible device, making sure you got the appropriate kill switch, make sure you've got it fastened to yourself and understand how to utilize it properly. So all of those things that you just mentioned, they'll go through and make sure that you got the lighting devices, especially if you're going to be navigating those waterways at nighttime, which is really leads into another issue. If you're not familiar with a body of water, and especially if you're a new operator, we really recommend and ask that you don't get out and navigate at night.
Sure.
Because these channels can be very narrow. Elevation and the depth of the water can change dramatically before you realize it. And if you're not familiar with that particular body of water, you'll be done run over something or run into something and not realize it. So we really stress everybody, if you're on a body of water that you're not familiar with, especially on a vessel that you're not familiar with, or you're just new, you've just recently purchased a boat, we're really asking that you not be out at night. And we're really encouraging everybody, if you've just recently purchased a boat, then either get an experienced operator to operate it for you, or maybe just wait till a less busier weekend.
Oh, sure, that makes sense, because I've already noticed just trying to get on I-10, trying to cross over the bay, how the traffic's already backed up, and I'm sure we're going to see that in the waterways, whether it be at the beach or in the bay or the rivers down here too.
Oh yes, sir. We really do. Again, everybody's talked about it with the understanding that I think COVID is coming to a closure, so people have the ability to get back out. I think everybody's excited to take that opportunity and enjoy the weekend. Again, we encourage everybody to do that. We just want them to do it safely.
Absolutely. And you said still in terms, is there anything else that you'd like the people to know in terms of while you're there on the Memorial Day weekend of what to be aware of from y'all's perspective?
And well, the last thing is the weather. You know, especially down here, you know, if you're on the beach, if you're on a boat, the weather can change really fast. So just look at that weather, especially before you go out, study that, and then don't wait. You know, if you feel like there's some weather rolling in and you're a long way out, go ahead and come back. And just understanding on a boat, you've got to be prepared when you leave, because if you don't have it with you when you leave, you're not going to have it.
Right.
You know, so if you didn't bring it with you, you're not going to have it.
Sure.
You know, that's even difference on a car. You may be able to pull over somewhere or go into a store and purchase something. You know, there's no store in the Gulf of Mexico. So if you don't bring it with you, you're not going to have it. So you have got to be prepared when you pull off from that landing or you pull off from that dock on that vessel. You've got to be fully prepared.
Sure. Because
otherwise you're just not going to have it with you.
Sure, and I think that particularly for visitors down here, I think a lot of folks don't realize that rip currents can be a really horrible thing to encounter, particularly for the first time. And perhaps if you've been out playing in the boat or fishing and think you can beach the boat or anchor just offshore and play in the surf, it's important to look out for those rip tides too.
Oh, absolutely, and just be aware of how quick you can get caught up in one. And before you know it, and again, that's so important to that especially small children having that life jacket on, that U.S. Coast Guard approved personal flotation device, because it's going to keep you alive.
Yes, sir.
It's going to, if something happens to you where you're knocked unconscious, that's the only thing that's going to save your life.
That's right.
So it's vitally important.
Well, now finally on the third aspect, the trip back home.
That's right.
What do folks need to know from y'all's perspective for the trip home?
Well, and again, it's that the trip's not over until everybody gets home safe. That's the way we look at it. The trip's not done. I think all too often, you know, once we get done at the beach or at the lake or on the river, you know, everybody's packing up, and that's a mindset. No, we ask everybody to maintain that situational awareness, maintain that high level of vigilance, and being able to understand that the trip's not done until everybody's home safe, and to focus on all the things that you did, you know, while you were on the way to your destination, at your destination. You need to focus that same energy until you get back home.
Sure, and I think a lot of times people, I know I've been guilty of this myself, on the way home, you think, you know, try to hurry to get home, or maybe your patience is a little thin after a long trip, and,
that's right.
And
exactly,
you know,
right.
Maybe you're not as cool and calm and collected as you typically are, and I think that motorists probably need to really be careful of that aspect too, huh?
You absolutely. So, you know, all too often, two of the major issues that we deal with when it comes to specific traffic violations during these holiday travel periods, of course, is speed. And speed often relates to the severity of the crash.
Right.
And that's why we really stress, you know, whether we're willing to admit it or not, this human body is pretty fragile. Right. And whenever, for some reason, you leave the roadway at a high rate of speed, that violent action, your body is going to absorb that energy as well as you know, and I know you fully understand how that works. So please watch that speed. That way, in the event something does happen, it's less likely to be so severe and catastrophic. And then the other huge thing that we just ask everybody, and this is where, like you said, and you said it, it's the patience, the following too close. You've got to give yourself enough distance between you and that motorist ahead of you to give you some time to react, because they may have to stop, something may run out in front of them, and you've got to give yourself enough time to react and slow your vehicle down. Otherwise, there's going to be a collision. There's going to be a crash.
And drivers in the state of Alabama have a responsibility not to hit the vehicle in front of them.
That is
leave enough of a cushion.
That is correct.
And we encounter this a lot in cases, unfortunately, of just that. You're following too closely, and people don't realize, from what we've seen in some cases, and I'm sure you see this day in and day out, is perception and reaction time. If something happens, it takes you usually about 3/4 of a second to see
That's
it
exactly
and
right.
recognize what's happening, and then another 3/4 of a second to then react. And if you're traveling faster, then the space you're covering in that time period gets longer. Right?
That's exactly right. So, you know, for every 10 miles an hour is 20 foot is the law. But on these busy travel periods, we really just stress to everybody to be vigilant and to pay attention to that. Like you said, you hit it on the head. You got to give yourself enough time to react. You got to be able to perceive what's going on and then be able to react to it.
Well, there you go. Well, Corporal Burkett, we really appreciate you coming. That was some really good insight. So when you're on the road or when you're there at your destination or on the way back, take your time. Leave enough time to react and just stay safe.
Yes, sir.
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you for your time.
Sir.
Yes, sir.